have heard it said that Darwin lost his religious faith due to his theory of natural selection, and atheists have used Darwin's theory to argue for atheism. As a result, some theists have taken the bait and have argued vociferously against Darwin's theory as if they're arguing against atheism. The modern intelligent design movement arose in response to these atheists. However, it's easy to show that the intelligent design arguments are vacuous, as I will now do. I'll cover 3 topics in this video: natural selection, design, and irreducible complexity. Let's begin with natural selection. One of the pervasive themes of Stephen Jay Gould is that Darwin's fundamental revolutionary idea is that the course of nature is purposeless. Gould calls us to complete Darwin's revolution by expunging the notion of purpose from our concept of nature. In response to Gould, the intelligent design movement opposes Darwin's theory of natural selection in order to oppose the idea that nature is purposeless. But Stephen Jay Gould is wrong. Natural selection is a purpose-driven process, and the purpose inherent in natural selection drives biological evolution toward more complex life forms over time. What is the purpose that drives natural selection? To see the purpose, suppose the following. On an airplane flight, you find yourself sitting next to someone with whom you discover shared interests. And the result of the new relation is that they offer you an income opportunity. After due consideration, you decide to take advantage of the opportunity, and years later you can look back with pleasure on a successful venture. Stephen Jay Gould's view of evolution implies that your success was due to purposeless chance. Do you agree with Gould? I invite you to pause at the next slide and think about it. Assuming that your meeting on the flight was due to purposeless chance, does that imply that your success was due to purposeless chance? Of course not. Your success was due to the following factors: the qualifications that enabled you to take advantage of the opportunity, your decision to take that step, and your diligent effort to bring the endeavor to success. Now here's the punchline. This is how natural selection works. Why? Because the purpose that drives natural selection is the propensity of an organism to survive. Due to this propensity, when an organism encounters an opportunity to enhance its survival, it tends to take advantage of the opportunity. As a result, if an organism is provided with advantageous features, the organism will tend to take advantage of the features to enhance its survival. And this holds true, of course, even if the provision of those features is ascribed to purposeless chance. Now keep in mind that this conclusion says nothing about the credibility of any particular source of features, but only that the overall process is purpose-driven. That takes care of the topic of natural selection. As we have seen, contrary to the claim of atheists such as Stephen Jay Gould, natural selection is a purpose-driven process. So theists can stop fighting the straw man of purposeless natural selection. Now let's turn to the topic of design. William Paley was a Christian apologist and philosopher, and about the year 1800 he asserted that if you find a watch in a field, you can clearly tell that the watch is designed. Following this theme, the modern intelligent design movement is based on the idea that there are objective features of design. However, this argument is vacuous. To see why, imagine picking up a handful of dirt and holding it in one hand with the watch in the other. Is it obvious that the dirt is designed? It isn't. Well, why not? After all, in the intelligent design paradigm, the dirt is designed by God. Did God botch the job on the dirt? Is the watchmaker a better designer than God? In fact, why don't we forget about the watch and just pick up a handful of dirt and exclaim, "This is clearly designed"? I invite you to pause the video on the next slide and resolve the problem. The problem is resolved when we realize that, contrary to their claim, the intelligent design proponent is not talking about design. The intelligent design proponent is actually talking about understandability. The structure and function of the watch are far simpler than those of the dirt, so it is far easier to understand the structure and function of the watch. That takes care of the topic of design. The argument for design by the intelligent design movement is vacuous. Finally, let's consider Michael Behe's idea of irreducible complexity. Behe illustrates the idea with a mousetrap. The functionality of a mousetrap is all or none. You can't create a mousetrap through an evolutionary process of increasing complexity. I invite you to pause the video on the next slide and explain why this argument against evolution is irrelevant. If you'd like a hint, keep playing the video. Here's the hint. Is a mousetrap a biological structure? What if a mousetrap were a biological structure? Behe is indeed correct to say that a mousetrap could not be created through an evolutionary process. This is because a mousetrap is not a biological structure. So the analogy of a mousetrap is irrelevant and therefore misleading. Now, if you take a biological structure, any biological structure, there's no logical reason to claim that there is not an evolutionary pathway for creating it. The most you could say against the idea is that scientists have not yet determined such a pathway. But there's no logical reason why they shouldn't eventually be able to. That takes care of the idea of irreducible complexity. The idea of irreducible complexity is a rational idea, but it doesn't apply to biological structures. Let's review what we've covered. First, the process of natural selection is purpose-driven. Second, the concept of design, as used by the intelligent design movement, refers not to design, but to understandability. Third, the idea of irreducible complexity doesn't apply to biological structures. This lays to rest the arguments that the intelligent design movement has mustered against biological evolution. In closing, it's possible that you might be concerned with the same issue as Darwin, namely, does the theory of evolution imply that belief in God is irrational? I settle this question in my book, where I show that the theory of evolution has nothing to do with the existence of God, and in fact, no scientific theory has anything to do with the existence of God.